March 19th, 2004, a 17-year-old girl finishes her shift at Montgomery, Vermont, where she has worked many times before. Unfortunately, hours later, her car is found backed into an abandoned farmhouse. The driver's side doors open, headlights, they're still on. Inside, no sign of Breonna Maitland. What happened that night on Route 118 has puzzled investigators, haunted her family, and become one of Vermont's most chilling unsolved cases.
Dun, dun, dun.
There it is. Welcome back to the Yore Town Podcast. Obviously, the voice you're hearing, or maybe it's not so obvious because you're here for the first time. It's me. It's Matt. It's Beardlaws. Joining me as always, the Dun Dun Queen, the newly founded Baltimore Ravens fan, apparently, my beautiful wife and co-host, Meg.
Hey.
Baltimore. This all came about because a couple of weeks ago you said, hey, where are we on the quest to do a case in every single state? And apparently we were down to only 2 that we hadn't done. I'm fairly certain.
I was going to ask about that.
There was one other one that we might have done. I have to look into it. But one of them for certain we hadn't done was Vermont. Pretty hard to find cases there, which is probably a good thing. Not a lot of either documentation or crimes. Can't figure out which one, but Vermont and Wyoming. I thought we did one in Wyoming already, but I didn't take the time to go back and look. But those were the 2 that were unmarked. So we're either all done after this one or we have the state of Wyoming to do.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, we are an international podcast doing stuff in Canada. And what did we do a couple of weeks ago? Was it England? UK? Somewhere over in the UK. I know they're much different. Sorry, UK crowd. But yeah, I figured we'd do this one. And this one was an interesting one. And again, viewer and listener discretion is advised. There is going to be some parts of the case that are tough to listen to, as most true crime cases are. But this, again, is one that is unsolved more than 2 decades later. So it's a story with a little bit of some strange details. An abandoned farmhouse, which Vermont land farmhouse. We did a farmhouse one a little bit ago as well. This one, there's a car positioned in a way that looks staged, rumors of drug connections, possible abductions, and chilling witness accounts. This isn't just a Vermont mystery. It's one of New England's most enduring cold cases. You're not a New England fan, so that's cool. All right, what do you think? Want to jump right into this?
Yep.
All right. Like we always do, I like to kind of paint the scene. Who is the victim? Who is the person? So let's talk about who is Breonna Maitland. Breonna Alexandra Maitland was born October 8th, 1986. Was around our age, Meg. She grew up in Franklin County, Vermont, near the Canadian border. Friends, they described her as independent, artistic, and adventurous. At 17, she was in a period of transition. She had recently moved out of her parents' home in East Franklin and was staying with friends while working not 1, but 2 jobs. 17 years old, out on her own, Meg. Working hard for the weekend, working the weekends, working multiple jobs. It's not something you see a lot of kids doing these days, and probably not back then as well. One of those jobs, though, was at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery, and another was at a restaurant in St. Albans. She was also, though, finishing up her high school equivalency diploma. Her independence, unfortunately, does, as a young female, comes with some risk. She was connected socially to people in the local drug scene, though not deeply involved herself. And I feel like there's a time in every person's life, let alone female, male, where sometimes you just hang out with the wrong crowd, and sometimes you got to learn yourselves to figure out, like, hey, do I want to be with these? And sometimes it's hard to get away from those crowds. I know there's been some people I've hung out with, probably shouldn't have, but I've made choices. We all make choices, and sometimes the choices turn out wrong, or in this case, very, very, very bad. Investigators, they later suggested that these associations, unfortunately, might have put her in the position that she was in on that night. Oh, fuck.
Sad to see with young people.
But you were a young girl once, you know what I mean? Young, going to college.
Yep.
Hung out with some people. Could have hung out with the wrong people at some point,
Not used to making your own choices. Sometimes that little bit of freedom goes too far.
Yep. This one hit a little bit closer to home because we do have a daughter who is getting close to this independent age, and we just hope that we've planted the right seeds and she chooses the right path. But let's talk about the night that this all went down March 19th, a couple of days after St. Paddy's Day, 2004. I was probably still hungover from St. Paddy's Day at this time. Breonna spent the morning with her mother. They were shopping in St. Albans. Her mom later recalled that Breonna seemed kind of distracted and actually left a note in the car saying she'd be back soon. That afternoon, Breonna passed her GED test. It's a good day, right? GED is an alternative. Maybe there's some people listening that don't know what it is. You can go like a Regents, a high school diploma, or you can get the, what is it? I don't know, general education diploma? I don't know what GED stands for.
GED, I think, is usually for people who don't complete school.
Mm-hmm.
They have that opportunity. It's like the equivalent of a high school diploma.
Just not getting it through high school.
Correct.
Right. I was saying.
I think I could be wrong on exactly where it falls, but
could be wrong. You may be right, but I don't exactly know what it stands for. But it's GED test. She then returns to her friend's home. She wanted to change some clothes and then headed to work at the old Black Lantern Inn, a small but busy inn and restaurant. Breonna finished her shift around 11:20 p.m. Coworkers said that she seemed tired but was in pretty good spirits. She told them that she had to get up early the next day for her second job. They watched her walk to her car, which was a pale green 1985 Oldsmobile sedan.
Nice.
But what's not nice was the last confirmed sighting of Breonna. The next day, March 20th, people received reports of a strange car abandoned on Route 118 in Montgomery. When officers arrived, they found Breonna's Oldsmobile backed into the side of an old abandoned house known locally as the Old Dutch Burn Place. The rear of the car was lodged into the foundation, almost as if it had been reversed at speed. Like they just wanted to plow into this farmhouse in reverse. Like they were in a demolition derby kind of thing. Maybe some people were driving some demolition derby cars at some point. Inside the car were 2 uncashed paychecks from her job, her driver's license, and other personal belongings. The doors were unlocked, and one of the headlights was still on. So what would you call that? A padiddle?
Padiddle.
Hit the roof?
Mm-hmm.
We agree on some kind of car games at least. So any of the viewers, I want you to comment right now. Take 3 seconds. When you're driving down a highway, mostly back in the day, or maybe you see some, and those vehicles that had a wooden pattern on them, what would you call them? Some may call it a woodchuck. Some may call it a beaver slug. Some may call it a woody. I want you to comment what you call those.
Nice. I see what you're doing here.
Thank you. But, I mean, the first thing, going back to the case, I mean, there's 2 uncashed paychecks. Mm-hmm. That isn't common for a young, independent woman working 2 jobs. If you're working 2 jobs, you're not making a ton of money. You need that money to have 2 of them uncashed. Mm-hmm. That sticks out to me. Amongst all the other things, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the scene, the investigators are like, something's not right. This looks wrong. It almost looks like it's staged. And investigators weren't sure if it was a car accident, a prank, or unfortunately something far more sinister, right? The photos of this car become iconic in true crime circles because it's just an eerie image of a teenager's car jammed into a farmhouse that has, well, this whole thing is just continually haunts investigators and the public and the town. It just doesn't look right, Meg. Sometimes those crime scenes, they look so wrong, you don't even think they're real. Like not even a movie would come up with them, you know? Right. And what's really sad about this, because of the situation, her being young, potentially in the drug and whatever, the disappearance wasn't taken seriously at first. Police, they suspected she just ran away. She just took off with some friends. Maybe they were twisted and the car just ended up that way. And they just left it because they didn't want to get in trouble.
Right.
But again, insistent parents, they just kept claiming, this wasn't like her. This wasn't like her. Look into this.
And it was an abandoned house, you said?
Abandoned farmhouse, yep. But then those days, as they always do in these cases, turn into weeks, turn into years, turn into decades. But as the weeks started to unfold, so did some kind of disturbing details, because witnesses reported seeing Breonna's car at the farmhouse as early as 12:30 in the morning on March 20th, just an hour after she left work. Some claim that they actually saw some people around the car, but none of those accounts could actually be verified. Passing motorists thought the car was abandoned, but didn't realize it belonged to a missing person. It wasn't until days later that the police actually connected the car to Breonna's disappearance. But by then, the scene was very contaminated, and there was probably a ton of evidence that was just lost forever. You hate that.
No? I just don't understand. why they wouldn't immediately start collecting. Why
I don't
wait
know.
until it's too late?
I don't, like you said, they probably, and this is all speculation and opinion based by, me and Meg. I would just have to imagine that stuff like this happens quite a bit, especially in the 80s. There's not a lot of technology, cell phones isn't existent, cameras, all that stuff. So they are chalking it up as just kids being kids. I mean, how many times did they probably see a smashed up, abandoned car? I don't know, but you have to imagine.
When did it happen, though?
This was 1986, March 20th.
I thought you said that's when.
That was the disappearance. So, sorry. No, she was born.
I thought it was in 2000.
Yeah, it was 2004.
Okay.
Sorry. I got stuck in the 80s. She was born in 86. That's 2004. Yeah.
That makes more sense.
So technology is slightly there, but I mean, let's be honest, cell phones weren't really there. Nobody really had security cameras. You're definitely not having cameras in an abandoned farmhouse.
Right.
But agree, it should have been a little more taken serious. But I don't know. Like I said, there's our speculations and opinions. But you see this over and over and over in these cases, why they remain unsolved. A lot of contamination in the crime scene. I mean, once you get people there and bystanders and days and weeks and rain, and I mean, let's be honest, March isn't great up here in the Northeast. Could still be snowing. Could be raining, but it's muddy.
Yeah.
But then a couple of theories, rumors, maybe even leads start to emerge as well. Her social circle, like we talked about, drew law enforcement into the world of Vermont's small town drug trade. Multiple theories that came out of this. Some believed that Breonna owed money or had angered people in the local drug scene. There was a couple of names that were dropped, like Nathaniel, whose nickname was Stretch Jackson, and Ramsey Rash Couture. Can you imagine your nickname being Rash? That can't be good.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm sure he wasn't rational. These were a couple of men with criminal backgrounds tied to drug activity. Another theory was that she was overdosed or maybe accidentally killed, and then her death was covered up by those that she was with. Then another one was investigators considered whether Breonna's case might be connected to the disappearance of a Mara Murray who vanished just 6 weeks earlier in New Hampshire. There were similarities that existed, but there wasn't any evidence that actually linked the two together.
Did we talk about that one?
I believe we did, but I can't tell you.
That name sounds really familiar.
Mara Murray. Well, let's see, Mara Murray, Yore Town Podcast. Let's see if we talked about it. Yeah, we did. A month ago.
I was going to say, that sounds really familiar.
We talked about that about a month ago. It's a disappearance February 2004, a 20-year-old nursing student.
Yep.
There we go. So let me ask you this before, we get into any of the breaks of the case or anything like that. What's your thoughts? What do you think happened on that night? Of the theories, or maybe you have your own theory. It's hard to obviously guess 20-something years later, hearing this case for the very first time. But just we've done some things. We gotta sprinkle on our tidbits and our opinions.
I think being a young adult, hanging out with the wrong people. I don't know. I want to say like overindulged. Not knowing, maybe she's new to whatever she was doing.
Some substance abuse.
And panic arose. I don't know. I just find it weird that when her driver's license and all that stuff is still in the car, they didn't think,
try to get rid of it?
No, like the collecting of evidence. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Got nothing, huh? See,
I guess I would need to know, like, did her friends think she was, like, using or anything like that?
Yeah.
Or they all said it was out of character. So it doesn't seem like that would be something that she would, from the picture painted, doesn't seem like that would be something to put into the cards. But
see, for me, I'm thinking if you're hanging around people like that, let's be honest, how many times have you seen really good females? They hang out with the wrong crowd. They hang out with some dirtbags. Next thing you know, they're a dirtbag. They're into some stuff. Like, it's just, you see some lives ruined because people make the wrong choices. I mean, it happens with males, but I'm in our area, small town, you typically see females hanging out with the wrong dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Happens a lot. Then they get into some things and it's hard to recover. I'm thinking, this is my opinion again. I think she's hanging around the wrong crowd. She gets into some stuff. Something happens. I'm going with the potential overdose theory, maybe to, Rash and Stretch, or maybe it's not even them. So I don't want to muddy up the waters with their names. Don't know them. But I'm thinking something happened. She probably overdoses or gets to a point where she's not doing well, maybe passes away. And it's just weird that there hadn't
I
been a
don't think
body.
she did the car.
No, I don't. I think that part was set up or staged potentially, where they just do that, or maybe she got twisted and reverse and bing, and then they got. I don't know. They fled. They did something, but it just seems odd that they were able to. But if they don't have evidence and leads and stuff, it might be easier to hide a body in a remote area. All right. Well, those are our speculations. Let's go ahead because there were a couple of moments when it seemed like they were going to solve the case. And one of those moments was 2006. The Vermont State Police revealed that they had DNA evidence that they were able to collect from the car. But they never released whose DNA evidence it was, but they confirmed that it wasn't Breonna. So they had some kind of evidence from somebody, but it wasn't her. But then in 2007, Meg, a videotape surfaced of two women that were being assaulted at a house party by Nathaniel Jackson and Ramsey Cotero, Stretch and Rash. Some believe that Breonna had been lured there, but they couldn't come up with evidence that she was actually present. So some things were happening to other...
From that night? Further down the road?
I don't know the exact date from him, but there was... And I don't know if they actually do too, but there was a video of these two assaulting women, but they couldn't tell if one, it was her, if she was there. So they're thinking potentially that these guys did something to her.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't until 2012 that the FBI then became involved, and they started to assist Vermont police with advanced forensic testing. So they did some testing, hope, you know what I mean, for the families and everything like that. But then in 2016, authorities publicly stated they believe Breonna was the victim of foul play, likely connected to drug activity. But despite leads, no arrests have ever been made. And in these cases, what's one thing that keeps these cases going, keeping them alive besides podcasts?
The families.
The family. And for Breonna's parents, Bruce and Kelly, the disappearance was obviously devastating. I couldn't imagine, and my heart breaks for any of these families and parents. But they tirelessly continue to push for attention on the case, working with private investigators and national media. And in 2020, Bruce actually founded Private Investigations for the Missing, a nonprofit organization that funds private investigators for families of missing loved ones who can't afford them. Breonna's case became the inspiration for this organization. Wow. Shout out to them. That's unbelievable cause, you know. Sucks, again, that tragedy had to lead to this. But unfortunately, the Maitland family continues to fight for answers. And they are never going to just, let the name fade. They want answers. They deserve justice, you know. And as of today, at the time of this recording, the disappearance, the case, everything is still unsolved. Like we had mentioned, the Vermont State Police still consider it an active investigation, which is great. There's a couple of facts that do remain. She vanished March 19, 2004. Her car was found abandoned at the old Dutchburn farmhouse. DNA was recovered, but hasn't led to an arrest, and multiple suspects have been named. Nobody's been charged, and we're just kind of left with theories. I mean, at the end of the day, she's still missing. And so are some of the truths of this. Man, what do you think? Isn't it? I just couldn't imagine. Either way, Meg, that's the story of Breonna Maitland, of what we know. I mean, obviously, there is a lot of other details we could get into, but this is just, I don't know if it's the right word or the right term, that we're not doing our part, but we're just putting it out there, helping keep this alive, even if one person watches this and then it leads down a rabbit hole of you doing some research. Maybe you find something, maybe you heard of something, maybe you think of something. You can always reach out to the Vermont State Police and say, hey, maybe somebody around that area. All it takes is, hey, I might know something, even if it's been 20 years. It could help bring some justice, you know. It's never going to bring Breonna back, but it could help, you know. Somebody knows something. It's obvious, you know. And if you're the person that did it, having to live with that guilt, it isn't enough, in my opinion. But either way, we were left with a 17-year-old who left work one March night and was never seen again. And this case remains one of Vermont's most haunting mysteries. And her family, obviously, they're still seeking answers. So thank you, Meg, for doing this. Thanks for anybody that's still listening. We appreciate it. It's kind of like our little date day. We go to the bakery while the kids at camp have some coffee. We have an hour of a date there and another 20 minutes of a date here before life gets pretty crazy. But either way, speaking of a crazy life, you guys should go over to the Stay Out of My Fridge podcast. You can hear all about our crazy life. We get the kids involved, and you can start to get a little bit more of a feel of how crazy life really can be. But that's all we got. And always remember to stay curious, stay safe, and remember, every town has a story. Sometimes that story is a little bit darker than you'd expect. We'll be back next week. Maybe we'll just do something about Wyoming regardless, because I don't feel like doing the homework or going back and looking.
Okay.
We'll do Wyoming. We'll finish them all up.
Sounds like a plan.
Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks, everybody. We'll be back next week. That's all I got. You got anything else?
Go Ravens.
I'm going to have to edit that out. Goodbye, everybody. And good luck to all your football teams out there.
I know nothing about football.
She doesn't, but she's about to learn. All right. We'll be back. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.